Hello, and welcome to another episode of Superpowers, the show where you get a chance to experience the extraordinary. And today I'm really excited because I have Suzanne Giesemann back with us again today. And I think this is just great. Suzanne has been one of my favorite speakers that we've had a chance to live stream when we've been at the IONS conferences. And we're actually lucky that we've got her again next week at the Academy for the Spiritual and Consciousness Studies event. And that is coming up on December 1st through the 4th. So one of the things that I just want to mention to everyone real quick is that you'll have a chance to see Suzanne next week. She's there December 2nd, and she's speaking at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be her live stream episode. So if you want to see that, you can see it. And if you want to get tickets for the Academy live streams, you can do that by going to streamingforthesoul.com. And up in the navigation bar, you'll see a tab that says ASCSi Phoenix, and click on that, and you'll be able to get tickets, and you can get information about all the speakers, and you can also see schedule and that kind of thing. So remember, when you buy a live stream ticket, if you can't see the stream live, that's okay. You can watch VODs for 90 days following the event. So even if you can't catch something live, you can still watch the video. And I got to tell you, Suzanne is somebody that is so worth it. You really want to hear her speak. You really want to see what she's going to bring, because she's amazing and she always has such great stuff. So, and with that, I just want to jump right in and have all of us get a chance to say hello to Suzanne Giesemann. So, hello, Suzanne.
Hello, Karl, and everybody who's watching.
It is great to have you here, and it's just a pleasure. I love your presentations always, and I also just love your story too, because where you came from and how you got to this point. And I don't want to, we've talked about that before, but we might visit that just briefly for a second, and, talk about previous history. And then you're really a self-made medium, and then you kind of got there. Yeah, you kind of got there through determination. And I think that's the amazing part, and I like what that offers in terms of a possibility for other people.
I just love your energy, Karl. I mean, that's a beautiful intro you gave me, but it's been fun when I've spoken at conferences and you're back there filming. You're laughing with everybody. You're smiling. You're not just running the cameras. I can tell that you're really soaking this stuff up, and I love it.
Oh, that's very true. I do soak it up. I do love it. I've been kind of in this arena of consciousness exploration since I was 23, and I may have mentioned this to you, that really the thing that got me started was when I picked up a copy of the book Seth Speaks, which was a book channeled by Jane Roberts, and I loved that book, and it completely shifted how I look at the world.
Yeah, I've had that same interest for decades, but never had any idea that I would one day be working as a channel like Jane Roberts and working as a medium. My background, very briefly, is a retired Navy officer. I served 20 years. I achieved the rank of commander. I was a commanding officer. I was a special assistant to the head of the whole Navy. And then my final tour was aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So I may have dabbled in books like you spoke of, and enjoyed thinking about other possibilities, but it was just that. It was just thinking about it. I wasn't sure if any of this was real. Now I am absolutely positive. There's no doubt in my mind there's a greater reality, and it was just waiting for me to discover it.
Well, and that's what's the great thing is because you did discover it. And that's what I think is so valuable for people who get a chance to hear you speak, because a lot of the people that I interview, and a lot of everyone's orientation is that somebody's already got kind of a gift, and it came either because they were born with it, or maybe because they had, like a near-death experience or something, and then that turned on the switch for them. And I like that you did have an emotional trauma that led you to this, but really it was your commitment to knowing that that Susan was still around that got you to this place.
Right. And for those who don't know who Susan is my stepdaughter, who was a sergeant in the Marines, and she was struck and killed by lightning 10 years ago when crossing the line at her duty station in North Carolina. And that's when I could no longer be satisfied just reading about the afterlife. I needed to know that Susan was still with us. And I received that confirmation with absolute verifiable evidence that the medium that I dragged my husband to was connecting to our Susan. And now I connect with her regularly.
Yeah.
And there's just no doubt in my mind from the evidence that she has given me and others give me daily from the other side that this world beyond the veil is quite real.
One of the things that I talk about a lot with people, and I think something that people are starting to know about me is that I like opening doors of possibility. And so when I have people come and they speak and they are telling their stories, I like doing that so that people have a sense of what's possible beyond what they're experiencing already.
That's huge, Carl, and I call it getting out of the box. And what my guides, we call them Sanaya. Sanaya has shown me that we're all like those nested dolls, if you've seen them. We take a lid off our box and say, hey, now I really believe in the spirit world. And then you discover, whoa, I'm bumping up against another box. Mm-hmm. There's another limit to my beliefs. And you peel back the lid and you have these new experiences, and then boom, you bump up against another box. And I love it because it's exciting. We don't know how many boxes we put around ourselves, but the more lids we take off, the more magical life becomes.
Yeah. I really agree. And I'm glad that you said that, because that's kind of more what I want to do today a little bit, talking to you. You've been teaching classes, and that's another element of what you're doing. You're teaching mediumship classes, which I think is great. But I think people kind of get now, at least our audience, that there are a lot of possibilities. And so now I'd love to talk a little bit with you about let's go into what to do with those possibilities. Like, it's one thing to know that something else is possible, but so now what do we do with that? And how do we use that to enhance and enrich our lives?
Can we just all get to the point where we understand that it's all about love, no matter what we do? That is the bottom line. And the thing that I've learned more than anything is the greatest, easiest, fastest way to improve my connection with the other side is to get me, the one with the name tag that reads Suzanne Giesemann, out of the way. Get the human side out of the way and tune into the love, the light that we all are. The more I do that by being love, the connection is amazing. So whether you want to be a healer or a channel or just fulfill your soul's contract, whatever it is, the bottom line is, where are you not stepping into the power of the soul, of the love that fuels us?
That's a really good question for a lot of people. And I think probably one of the early stumbling blocks that people bump up against is getting themselves out of the way, and being able to just quiet their mind and receive. I also think too, there's an awful lot of people with the idea that when they sit and they meditate, they have to have the intentions, and they've got to, have, and I want it to be like this, and they have to say the intention exactly right so that they don't get the wrong order, and all that. And I think we really love to engage the brain while we're doing that, as opposed to quieting our mind and letting the well fill up.
Well, surely meditation has been the whole key to my tapping into the other side. It was because I started meditating the week that Susan was killed that I opened up that awareness of the greater reality. But a lot of people hear that word meditation and they get turned off because they say, I can't quiet my mind.
Hmm.
And so I have started teaching in my classes that part of meditation is what I call sitting in the power. And it's a very active meditation. It's how I get daily messages from Sanaya. It's not quiet, it's very busy
Right.
because they're dictating to me. So there is a part of it that's very quiet. And that's the training ground for the focus that my work as a medium requires. But otherwise, it's my daily practice of attunement is that awareness of sitting in the power that flows through us.
And just out of curiosity, because I know everybody experiences things in a slightly different way, but what does that feel like for you when you're sitting there? What's that experience like?
Well, for someone who's never done drugs, I think if I could bottle the feeling that I get in a really nice deep meditation, nobody would ever need to pick up a bottle. It's not like that every time, but I have this process that I'm teaching now. I call it the Bless Me method, 7 steps to help you go really deep, 7 steps to connecting with higher consciousness. And it does get to a nice expanded state. And so that's the word I would use. What does it feel like? It feels expansive, like you couldn't fit that within the confines of the body. It's this freedom and openness, and you've just left all this human heavy luggage behind and just stepped into this beautiful space where there are no worries.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, if anything would be an incentive for people to start working with it and deliberately, developing this as a skill, that would be the thing.
So let me just tell you that people have been saying, when are you going to record the Bless Me meditation? And I did that.
Hmm.
I have a new CD out. It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's on my website. It's called The Journey of Remembrance. And the first major track is Sanaya channeling these beautiful words with music by Richard Schulman, who's going to be at the same conference.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Richard's going to be there too. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
I have to tell you how that came about, the CD, but the Journey of Remembrance just awakens within us who we really are, beautiful souls. And then track 3 is I lead a Bless Me meditation, and people are loving it. It's great because it just takes you step by step into that expanded state.
That's that's great, and I'm reminded of something that you mentioned in your talk in Orlando, which was you said this to the audience there, and it was particularly relevant to them, which is that you don't have to have an NDE to find this space. And so I love now that you've got actually a little tool or a path that people can use, and that can help them find it, and
People
there's
tell me they listen to this recording and they start crying.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's tremendous. But I've had maybe 4 times, maybe 5 now that I can count that I call an STE, spiritually transformative experience.
right,
And we can set the intention. Yes, I'd like to have that so I truly know. Not every meditation is life changing, but
hmm,
by grace and by intention, we are all capable of having some experience in an expanded state of consciousness where you say, whoa, that was more than just this physical world. There is something more out there, and I'm part of it.
yeah,
That's life changing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that's really one of the things that I just at this point find is important for, because I think people are awakening to possibility, and now it's just, how do you move forward with that? How do you really bring that into your life and kind of anchor that?
I want to really encourage people to have a playful attitude, to experiment with things that are safe. I'm not talking about drugs, talking about going and finding energy workers. I have just had fun having Reiki sessions or quantum touch. Those kind of things. It's so funny. I remember being at an expo, a mind, body, spirit expo, and looking at these people laid out on the tables with crystals all over their body, and I'm saying, "Oh, that is so weird." Do you see the box I was in at that time? And now I go to my favorite energy healer, and she puts the crystals, and I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome!" You know how we change. But I know that we are energetic beings. We are light. We are beings of light. The body is secondary. And so anything that we can do to get that energy moving properly, to come into alignment with our light bodies is transformational. So when we think that energy work is not effective, we're really limiting the experiences we have. We carry around a lot of wounds. Everybody has been hurt at some point. Right. And so these become blockages in our energetic body and then in our physical body. Right. And so I really encourage people, get out there and find a healer, even if it's just a friend, and play. And some of my STEs have happened on healers' tables, and it's just wonderful.
Well, that's such a crucial thing, is that sense of play. Yes. And and you think about when you're kids and you're playing, everything is a possibility, and you jump in and you just try stuff, and if that doesn't work, then you move on to something else.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in meditation one day, and in steps this incredible presence, really powerful, and I remember saying, "Who are you?" And he holds up this sword and says, "I am Archangel Michael." And I thought, oh no. Because, I'm trying to be this very credible medium. I'm the former Navy officer, and now I don't believe in archangels. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. But suddenly I remembered, what is it that I tell other people? And it is, be willing to play until you've been shown that something is not beneficial. So I said, okay, I'll go with this. What do you have to tell me? And what unfolded from there totally changed my idea about the whole realm of archangels. I can guarantee you there are archangels and they're real. I got the evidence, irrefutable, that was a visit from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that play does, I think, is that's a way we step into openness, because it's a non-judgmental thing. It's just that's play.
You just maybe think of little kids. Little kids who are playing don't care what other people think. And right. We grow up and we start to worry, what if people think I'm crazy? Or what if I look stupid? And so I'm willing to admit I was visited by an archangel. I'm willing to act silly sometimes if it makes a point. And I remember thinking, all right, if this is really you, unless you give me evidence, I'm not telling anybody about this. I'll tell my husband, he's a destroyer captain, And now I've told the world about my Archangel Michael visit, because right. I don't care what anybody else thinks. When you have that personal experience, it changes everything.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with play too is you jump into it, and there isn't necessarily an objective other than play. You think about kids, and especially when they're little, they just chase each other, and it isn't like there's rules or a format or anything. They just run around and chase each other, and then they catch up with each other and fall down, and then they jump up and they chase each other again, and that's just all there is to it. Yeah. So now tell me a little bit about, I love the Archangel Michael story and how fun that was, how that came about. Maybe just something transformative that came through a different experience, maybe just, a meditation time or something, and just what that was like for you. Just for people who are maybe jumping in and they want to know if maybe they're having one.
This was while on my friend, she does energy alignments. I was on her table, and And all of these experiences have happened after 30 minutes. So I think that for most of us, that's necessary to really let go and step away from your human experiences. So usually after about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, I'm really deep. And that's how I was this one day. And suddenly I just disappeared. Suzanne disappeared, and I was surrounded by beings of light. They didn't
Mm.
even have form. They were just all around me. And I clearly heard them, although it wasn't in words. They said, "Now do you remember?"
Oh,
And it was, "Do you remember where you came from?"
mm-hmm.
And I did, because I was there with them.
Right.
And I was sobbing, and I just said, why would anyone go back to Earth, to our human body, except to serve? And I believe it's from that experience that I'm so driven to serve, to fulfill my contract here. We're all here for our soul's growth. And any way we can connect with other human beings and do it through the heart, we're
Mm-hmm.
serving in
Yeah.
any way. One
Yeah.
on one, one to a group, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, that's my experience too with you, and what I've come to know about you is that commitment to serving, and also your commitment to bringing through messages that are confirming that really we are love, and that's why we're here, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for the past 3 summers now, and I'm going to do it again in June, I've led a weekend retreat at the Unity headquarters. That's for the Unity Worldwide Church. They have their training campus for university, for future ministers in Missouri. And it's always a loving weekend. Everybody comes away so uplifted. I think we all float out of there, but it's in Missouri. And I think that I probably should move there, because that's the show me state. You know?
There you
And
go.
for me, all along from day one, when I brought through the very first spirit, it's like, okay, show me you're really here. That's that left brain. And I know that, you know, many people need that evidence.
Yeah.
And the spirit world knows that. And
Yes.
that's why they give it to me. I ask for it every time.
Right.
Even if I'm sitting with someone who's open-minded, they don't need the evidence. Those on the other side give me the evidence that I'm talking to them, just so I'm absolutely sure I'm not just making this up.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, that's actually a good point too, and I think that's something for people that they want to know. They want to know how to learn that discernment, so that they know they're not making it up too.
And this is one of the things I teach in my serving spirit class. That's what I name my mediumship class. I think a lot of my students have no intention of being mediums. They just want to learn how to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest questions is, how do I know I'm not just making this up?
Right.
And it's sometimes very hard to tell the difference. And it's practice and asking for evidence. And then you get to discern that feeling between a presence actually merging with your energy field and your own imagination. One of the main ways you can tell is because what comes into your mind, whether that be a thought or an image, is unexpected, out of context, something you wouldn't have thought of, off the wall. That's how you know. And then you kind of track that down and you say, why did I have that experience? Or you have a synchronicity later in the day that validates it if it happened in meditation. If you have somebody sitting here right with you, you can say, why did I just see that painted face of a clown with orange hair? And they say, because my husband was a clown in a hospital. You know, that's your instant validation.
Right.
But in meditation, if you say, I think I sense my guide, but I need a sign. What sign will you show me later today or later this week? Your guide will give you that.
Mm-hmm.
No? And then you get that validation. I ask for evidence every time my stepdaughter Susan comes to me. You know, okay, not every time. She's not every time. but when it's a special visit, I'll say, tell me something about your father or your sister or your biological mother that I don't know. So they know you're here. I can feel you. I
Right.
know you, but I try to picture how things that I tell people will sound to them. Hey, Susan visited me today. That's nice, honey.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think another thing too that can block a little bit is judgment. So something pops in exactly like what you just said, which is it's not really connected to anything. It's a total non sequitur, unexpected, and immediately the judgment thing comes up and say, "Oh, that was crazy." So that must not be
And
anything.
so I would like the listeners to imagine you're a spirit on the other side, or you're your spirit guide, and you've just gotten something through their busy mind, the person's busy mind, and they say, "Oh, that was my imagination." Well, you've just been blown off, haven't you? So I would say, give it a chance, track it down, have some faith there, and then you will get the validation you need and honor, serve those spirits.
Yeah. It's funny because in a way, the analogy you just made is similar to being a teacher or being a parent. And you have to be so creative in the different ways that you present something that you want, a child or a student to learn, and how do you get it to land, and then and you have to be very inventive. And I know from my own experience the different ways I've had to say things and do things and model something, to finally get the point across. It's just really funny imagining now being on the spirit side, and you give like this great perfect clue, and then nothing.
Oh, I teach this one example that, everything that they get into our awareness, they being spirits, has a frequency. That's how it comes in. Whether we pick it up as visual or auditory, that depends on how we receive. But I know they're over there trying different ways to get through to us. And I was giving this reading one time, and I said to my client, well, I just heard the name Cleopatra. And I was talking to her boyfriend on the other side. And she said, Cleopatra, I don't know why you'd hear that. And I said, well, let's see. It was a movie. It was a historical figure. When I think of Cleopatra, I think of Anthony and Cleopatra. And she goes, Anthony, that's his name. That's my boyfriend. And so, Carl, I use this as an example, but I'm not kidding. This is how it works. The spirit's on the other side going, yo, it's me, Anthony. and I'm not hearing it. It's going, obviously I'm sitting there not saying anything. So my guide, who knows my consciousness, says, try Cleopatra. So Anthony goes, Cleopatra. And the medium goes, oh, I just heard Cleopatra. And they know I'll work it out. That's the way I was trained. If something doesn't make sense, we say, all right, so what could that be? I can't share that because I had that happen in a reading recently, and it was beautiful. The same exact thing, but I don't have the clients. I haven't asked if I could share it, so I have to honor that.
Yeah. I just think that's great and very funny. And yeah, they do know how we work and what we're doing. And so they can figure out ways to lead the breadcrumbs to where we have to go to find something. And, they're reasonably sure whether or not we'll actually follow the path of breadcrumbs or if they just need to start again.
But here's the thing, Carl. I have found this at least 3 major stunning synchronicities where I'm absolutely positive the spirit, whether it's a loved one or a guide or an angel, whoever it is, knows what's going to happen in our life, knows what we're going to run into, who we're going to encounter. Mm-hmm. Step back, put the thought in the human being's mind to ask for a sign, knowing that encounter is going to happen, and it's this magical moment. You encounter it and they're like, oh, this is good, we knew. Yeah. Now they got their sign. So when we have the thought, I should ask for a sign about that, I'll ask for this, even that can be put in our head because it's predestined.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things I remember reading about long ago is asking for the signs, and then if you're going to ask, pay attention and look for things that are a little bit out of your routine or things that might confirm something. There's a great story in a Florence Scovel Shinn book, and she's talking about somebody who wanted this really nice set of china and had asked for a sign, and a couple days later she was out walking around, she found like a little broken saucer and didn't really think anything of it, but told Florence about it. And Florence, I love the expression, she goes, it's signs of land, it's when you're out at sea and you may see sticks in the water, or maybe you'll start seeing a few birds flying. It's signs of land, she said. So stay with it. So, it's coming. That's letting you know that it's on its way. And
that really strikes home. I don't know if you remember that I sailed across the Atlantic Ocean on my 46-foot sloop. And,
I do remember that, and that was. Go ahead.
We took our dachshund Rudy with us. Imagine a little dachshund that hasn't been off a sailboat in 26 days, and we got signs of land. And here comes the island of the Azores coming into view. I mean, to say land ho was so cool, but Rudy didn't understand land ho, so we waited till we were within an hour of landfall, and finally we said the magic words: "Want to go for a walk?" Signs of land.
Oh, that's awesome. And Rudy wanted to go for that walk. Well, that's definitely a crucial element is, looking for the signs when you ask for them, being aware of them. And then also, again, not letting the judgment facility kick in and go, nah, that wasn't really it. I mean, we're really funny. How, it's got to be exactly this and exactly that. And
I think the beauty of my background, that left brain military credibility that comes into my work, really helps people. I think it was all part of my plan.
Yes.
Without my knowing it, because so many people come up to me after my talks at conferences and they say, well, I had this experience or this happened to me. Do you think that was real? They already know it was real.
Yeah.
They just want validation.
Yep.
They just want somebody to say you're not crazy.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you're right about the credibility element, and I think that your background, I think somebody like Dr. Eben Alexander's background, having been a neurosurgeon, those kinds of things, it does give credibility. And so I totally get somebody coming up to you and saying, do you think this was real? Because you're not, I don't know, you're just grounded. You're not airy-fairy, you're not the, as they say, the woo-woo type. And so they'll believe it.
You raise another point, though, as you're saying that, is also, I caution people not to buy into everything. Right. I was leading a meditation in a hotel, and my assistant Bev was in the back of the room, and I asked her to lower the lights. So I'm leading the meditation, my eyes are closed, and all of a sudden I'm aware of this growing light, and I thought, whoa, wow, light. And I open my eyes, and the lights in the room have come back on. I see Bev run up. She runs out in the hall, and the lights go back down. So I close my eyes, I keep going, and now the lights have come back on again. I said, what's going on? Is it the spirits? And I look up, and later on, Bev tells me that when she adjusted the lights in our room, it turned them off in the whole hotel. So the people were running back to the hallway playing with the lights. And, it would have been very easy to say, oh, the spirits are playing with the lights,
Well, in a sense they were, but they were also spirits inhabiting bodies at the time. Oh, that's very funny. So, Suzanne, when people take your class, what is that like for them? What sort of a journey do you take them on and is a class, is it a day or is it a weekend or is it a work?
2 days, Saturday and Sunday class. I'm going to do it, I think, 10 times in 2017. It has been so well received for two reasons. I think number one is that I tell everything. I have no secrets. This is how you do it. I don't just give theory, and it's not just practice. It's step by step and tools and one of the main points is how to get over our own fears and doubts. I've had people say, I've been studying mediumship for 4 years and I learned more in 2 days with you than in the entire 4 years. I
Right.
think the other thing that people like is because I'm not a born medium, I don't take any of this for granted. And I show my own doubts. I show how I got over my own trepidation. And I think people relate to that.
Yeah.
So it's been a totally positive experience. I had one lady who was 80 some years old. She's a working medium. And she said, I'm in your class, and my friend who's a medium said, why are you going to that class? And she said, why not? And at lunchtime, she went up to my assistant and said, I just called my friend and said, you should be here. Very validating for me. I just let Sanaya teach with me. It's a team effort. And it's
Yeah.
really funny because I'll be going through the class and I'll go, oh yeah, because they say something and then they're just constantly talking. And one time in the class I went, yeah. And the whole class said, what? Like I didn't share what Sanaya had said. It's a cooperative effort.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think there's great value to that for people who come to learn from you, because you were at the beginning of this in the place where they are presumably when they come into the class, and you had a journey and you had things to learn, and I love too that you had the very structured and left brain kind of mindset that you did for such a long time, because while that serves you as a part of the process, it's also something that you need to be able to get yourself beyond so that you can open up and be a better receiver.
Yeah. I waited a long time. I didn't want to teach mediumship. I didn't want to be one of those people that's been doing readings for 3 years and now I'm going to teach. It's 10 years since Susan died, 8 years since I discovered the ability. And it was my husband who said, you need to be teaching mediumship. He said it before, and it was 8 months ago. We're sitting at the breakfast table. He says, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. You need to be teaching. And I surprised him because I said, no. And he said, whoa. And I said, I'm overwhelmed. I have too much going on. I got a plan for this keynote speech. I have all these workshops and everything. He said, I'm sorry I asked. And I'm not kidding you, Karl. 5 minutes later, I reach over, I pick up my pen, and I start writing. Ty says, what are you doing? I said, they're giving me the syllabus. That's it. I mean, I filled pages and pages and pages. I don't have to do anything. This is what they said. You will teach this, and this. And it's been fantastic.
Ty was your signs of land for teaching mediumship.
Yes, so he's wonderful. He supports every bit of this work. Incredible.
Yeah. So I have a question for you then now, the flip side of the teaching. Tell me what it's like for you when you do something, because you went to Arthur Finley, I think, and so then now you're working on you in that, is that right? And and so what is that experience like, for you when you're in a position where now you're, for lack of a better way of saying, honing your craft?
Yeah, Arthur Finley College of Psychic Sciences in England is, to me, the best. That's Mecca for a medium. And I've been there twice. It's like boot camp for mediums. They only have 1 week classes. Some are even shorter. I went to 2 1-week classes years apart, and I just went a year ago this month. I believe in having beginner's cup. That means I don't go there saying, hey, I'm a working medium, I know it all. I go there saying, help me. There's always more to learn. And it didn't matter if I was a brand new or working medium. They have what's called Tearful Tuesday and Weepy Wednesday. When all the students just kind of implode, and I was not immune to that. I had to get up and do a demonstration before a group, and people said I did well, but I thought it was terrible. And I'm crying. I'm saying, oh, I'm so terrible at this. It's awful. What makes me think I can be a medium, even though I'd had thousands of 5-bar connections with the spirit world. And I think that's part of the process of forging that sword. You got to go through the fire. You have to get knocked down and say, what is it I'm missing here? And boy, I got it. And does that mean now I'm a wonderful demonstrating medium? No, I'm a work in progress,
Right.
but to be in that energy of all these people focused on serving spirit and this building where spirits have been present for decades is just fantastic. I just
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I could go back monthly, you know.
Things may not work this way, and I know that sometimes it's hard to have this perspective anyway. But is there something that, let's say, you could go and you could really improve X? How do what do you see that you might most improve about how you're working right now as a medium?
Well, I'm going to do it next week. I've agreed to speak to a group of grieving parents, Helping Parents Heal chapter in Tampa. And I
Mm,
don't normally do demonstrations of mediumship.
right.
And I was talking to the chapter leader and said, okay, I'm just going to do a presentation with a lot of the evidence. And there's this pause. I said, you didn't tell him I'm doing readings, did you? And she said, well, yeah. And I thought, oh, great. And then I realized once again, this is a matter of me having to step into the power and trust spirit. And
Right.
so I said to my guides, show me how to look at this differently. And I'm ready now. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to do it like regular demonstrating mediums stand up in the front of the group and do this. We're going to
Right.
get in a circle
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have a party with their kids. Their kids are
Yeah.
invited from the other side. And it's going to be beautiful because I just know they know I'm there. They know their parents are there. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about me. And I'm not going to worry about having to do it a certain way. I'm just going to serve those kids and serve those parents. So if there's
Mm.
anything I need to work on, it's getting myself out of the way. It's the ongoing issue for all of us.
Right, right. Yep. And I see I can see that, or I can put myself into that situation and know exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling about that, and it is a service to those parents, and it is a service to those kids. And boy, I'll tell you what, if they can walk out of there, the parents, with a little bit more of a sense of joy and celebration, and or relief or comfort,
That's it.
then I know the kids are over on the other side going, yeah, all right, we got,
Exactly. That's what I teach people.
yeah,
That's why the class is called Serving Spirit, because it's not about us. But I do
yeah,
have to tell you that I checked into a hotel where I was teaching this class,
uh-huh.
and the guy's taking my bags to the room, and he says, "You're a medium teaching the class?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I thought it was a class for bartenders." Serving Spirit. But Carl, the lesson for me is that the last few times, every time I've given this class, 10, 11 times now, I have on the second day demonstrated a one-on-one reading. I've pulled a student out of the class, sat him in front of everybody. You
Hmm.
have 50 people gathered around, and I said, now here we're practicing one-on-ones, not group demonstrations. Here's how I do a reading. Now, I've been teaching for a day. They've come to hear me teach. This is that moment where the human side says, oh God, what if I fail? You know,
Yeah,
and and I tell the class that's going through my mind right now, and I think that's what they relate to.
right.
But you have to say that gets in the way of my connection. There is a spirit here that I want to serve, and you know
Hmm.
what the reward is, Carl?
Yeah.
One of the most challenging things for me and for many mediums is getting the names of the spirit accurately. If I
Hmm.
try, forget it, but hopefully they give it to me. But my batting average with names has not been that high. But each time I've stepped up to the plate in that class, the last few times, I've gotten the spirit's name spot on first time. It's like a miracle to me. I'm hearing Bill. Well, that's his name. And I just literally go, I look at everybody and I say, you know what a miracle that is for me. My batting average with names, every other bit of evidence I'm thrilled with, but names, I just kind of say, whatever, if it's wrong. But I think it's like the spirit world has been playing with me. We're going to withhold names so you don't take any of this for granted. And when you really get yourself out of the way and put yourself on the spot, you are rewarded. Here's the name, Bill. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know if that's how it works, but
Yeah.
it feels that way.
Yeah.
So for all of us, we have to get over our own fears and our insecurities and just serve. Just serve.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard because, as Eben Alexander said, the mind, he now understands it to be not the source of consciousness, but a receiver of consciousness. And the way that he actually describes it is he calls it the great reducer.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just filtering out everything except what
Yes.
you're getting with your five
Yes.
senses. And so, that's just how we're built. That's just what we are. And yeah, we have to work with that and get it out of the way and get the ego out of the way. I think what you're saying is a beautiful way to do it, which is you just are continually recognizing that you're serving spirit. And that's, I think that's a great tool for anyone okay, now this is not about me now. And when we're in service, it flows a lot better.
It flows. That's the goal, to get that flow.
Yeah, yeah. A question came up when we were talking about the parent group that you're going to do next week, and I just wondered because is it a very different experience for you when there's a group like that versus just a one-on-one? And what I'm really asking is there suddenly like a flood of input coming from all over, and you're trying to sift through it? And
See, this is the challenge. I haven't done that many groups. I've done a few here in my community just for the practice. And I believe that my guide is acting as a gatekeeper because it has been a very orderly flow.
oh,
Yeah.
great,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. And they're telling me that's how it will be next week as well. Although,
awesome,
although
good,
I'm being told that it will be more of a popcorn style because I'm picturing this as a party. Oh yeah, and your son is saying this and your daughter says this, but now your son says this. So, but it will
right.
be orderly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that would be important. So it's not like just, trying to pull information from a conversation out of, 100 people standing around talking. So,
I want to make a point though about the parents and the grieving people,
hmm
and this leads into my talk that I'm doing at the Academy for Spiritual and Consciousness Studies conference. It's about the transformative power of hope, and that whole speech came about. I haven't given it yet. This is the premiere of it. Came about after watching a webinar with grieving parents, and I tuned in, and there on the screen were these 9 faces. I think it was all women. So
hmm
all mothers who lost children.
mm,
I almost couldn't watch. I needed to watch as a favor to the person leading the group. I wanted to see how that went and learn from them. But their pain, 9 of them all at once coming off the screen was more than I could bear. I deal with
mm,
people one-on-one, and that's
right,
okay, but 9 of them. And oh, it was just challenging. And
right.
then what happened was so stunning to me. The leader of the webinar did not introduce me. I could see my face on the screen too.
hmm
So nobody knew there was a medium present. And when I was introduced, people looked up and I got to talking and I shared a few stories from the other side. The energy just went whoosh. And what was it? Hope.
Ah,
Hope. Suddenly it wasn't, oh, I've lost my child and how do I get over this grief? It
hmm
was, here's somebody that connects, I hope, with people on the other side. Here's somebody that's here to tell us that they know our kids are okay.
right.
It was transformative of the energy in the moment. And so my talk focuses on a lot of stories that transformed the people who had these experiences of reconnecting with their loved ones, because that's why they call me, my tagline, my title is Messenger of Hope,
Right. Yep.
because it changes lives to know that we are part of this greater reality. Life goes on. Death is not the end.
hmm Well, and that's I think why I am so latched on to the concept of opening doors of possibility, because I believe from that spawns hope. And
Oh,
then whatever other kinds of transformations may come out of that. But it gets us from that place of feeling stuck
yeah.
for whatever reason, and into okay, so this is possible, this is possible, this is possible, and that gives us movement forward.
Well, a dear friend of mine, this week, her husband suddenly passed. I mean, unexpected. Oh, we were all just stunned when we got the news.
Hmm.
And I have her permission to share this. But I thought, oh, wouldn't it be a gift if he would come to me? And I knew that eventually I would give her a reading,
Yes.
but I thought it would take a while for him to adjust to the other side and look forward to doing that reading. Well, I got hijacked by him the next day within 24 hours. I didn't know him well at all.
Right.
All of a sudden, the thought was put in my mind, go, call her. I mean, her husband had just died. I thought she might not want to talk to me. And
Right.
then as I'm talking to her, I said, can I come give you a hug? And she said, I would love that. And I thought, ooh, am I intruding on her privacy? Well, I realize now the thought to give her a hug came from her husband because as I pulled onto her street, there he was in my car. It was like, oh my God. And he starts telling me things about him that I don't know. I walk in the front door and she's looking, sad and
Oh,
small.
yeah.
And instead of, a sad, grieving hug, I met her with, your husband is telling me this, this, and this. And she just, I said, he's right here. And we stood in the doorway as I told her things that he was saying to her that she was able to validate within 24 hours of his passing. Totally transformative for her. And
Right.
that's what you just said. It opens doors of possibility. Now she's way ahead of the grieving game, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
She has to adjust to that non-presence physically.
Mm-hmm.
But he's three times he's come to me now. He's pretty active.
that that actually sounds a lot like my dad. And I had a similar kind of experience when he passed. We were at his service at the church, and my oldest daughter is clairvoyant, and so we're sitting at the service, and the pastor finishes and goes to sit down, and Ruby starts to giggle. And I look at her and I go, Ruby, what is so funny? Why are you giggling? And she goes, the pastor almost sat on Grandpa. And that was the start of it for me. And, with and going, okay. And it's funny because I'm sure that people in the audience experience this too. It doesn't really matter. I mean, this was only 6 years ago, I think. And I, by that time, had a lot of my own experiences, and I had a lot of knowledge, and I really had understanding. And I had like my own astral travel out of body experience, so I knew what that was and had a lot of fun with that, playing, looking at my hand and putting it through walls, and that kind of stuff. It was really cool. So there's a knowing about that. And yet, when my dad passed, there was just this huge sadness. And so Ruby seeing him, and he's a goof anyway, and a radiologist and that kind of a person giving that sort of service, and yeah, always funny and always a goof. And there he is doing this slapstick thing, getting sitting in the chair where the pastor's going to sit. Really funny. So it does help, and it does, right away it just shifts that perspective.
Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned something, and I'm going to just mention it too, which is you are the messenger of hope. You also have a documentary about you called Messages of Hope, and as well as a book, which is awesome. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful documentary, and I think that that's something really worth people visiting. If you want to know a little bit more about Suzanne, you want to know a little bit more about how she got to this place. The Messages of Hope is a great way to just sort of follow that journey and know a little bit more about her and how she came to be the wonderful medium that she is. And you can find that on streamingforthesoul.com. We've got it there, so you can go there and watch it and see a little bit more about Suzanne. So well, Suzanne, I think we are getting kind of around wrap-up time.
Time flies.
It does. This was so much fun. It's so great to talk to you, and bless your heart. Thank you for being here and for telling us just, a little bit more about, kind of what you're doing, what you're up to, and I think the encouragement into meditation, and just sort of continued exploration, especially under the umbrella of play, is great.
Thank you. And I look forward to sharing more stories from the other side in my upcoming talk at the conference. I have held back and haven't shared everything with my regular followers because I always like to provide new hopeful stories. And that's the beauty of this work. There's no end to the evidence that those on the other side give us, because they want us to know we're right here.
Yeah. That they do. And quite honestly, I don't know if there's anyone better at bringing that evidence and validation forward for people than you are right now. You just do magnificent work. And I know. Well, just a little pat on the back every once in a while is okay. So I know it's not you, but still it's you. Okay. So, all right. Well, thank you again for being here. And I can't wait to see you next week. And I'm really looking forward to your presentation.
Give you a big hug.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you again. We'll see you soon. Okay. Bye-bye. And that's Suzanne Giesemann. And if you haven't seen her speak, I really encourage you to join us next week at the Academy for Spiritual and Consciousness Studies live stream. Suzanne will be speaking on Friday, and that's at 9 in the morning. And we would love to have you join us for that. And if you want to get tickets, you can go to streamingforthesoul.com. And just click on the ASCSi Phoenix link in the navigation bar, and that'll take you to the page, and you get tickets there, and you can also find out more about the speakers and more about the schedule. And then I do just want to mention again that a great opportunity to know more about Suzanne, just learn more about her journey, and that's such a beautiful story, is her documentary, Messages of Hope. And it's beautifully shot, and there's some really great reenactments in it. I particularly enjoy the butterfly reenactment, and so it's a wonderful documentary, and that's something that you can also enjoy and get to know a little bit more about Suzanne Giesemann and her journey, and how it might actually have similarities to your own. So that's a great thing about how Suzanne came to this place, is that it was really through, just being determined that she was going to actually know and be connected to, a larger reality, and she did it. And she did it through her meditation and just through her commitment. And so that's something that we can all do. And I love how that, her journey makes that something that's possible for all of us. So thank you for being here today for Superpowers, and for Suzanne Giesemann's presentation here today. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Superpowers. And until then, remember to go out and experience the extraordinary.